legacy. Let's talk about P. Diddy, Sean Combs. My God, he is in a whole ton of trouble. And it goes well beyond even what's in the indictment, which includes...
Diddy has caught the internet by storm after new details about his arrest have been revealed. Multiple people who say that rapper, producer, and businessman Combs used his power, influence, and wealth to scare them into doing what he wanted are promised justice by the Southern District of New York. The accusations are very serious. Whether they are about getting drugs, having sexual acts, or cleaning up after what looked like sexual acts. Diddy has been twirling up in controversies and cases for months now. When Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, also known as Cassie, sued him in November of last year, she said he abused her physically, sexually, and mentally for years before she was finally able to get away. Even though Combs denied everything in her case, it was settled the very next day. But that set off a chain reaction. Many more lawsuits were made against him and even his son, accusing them of sexual abuse, sex trafficking, illegal drug possession, and violence. Tiffany Red, a long-term friend of Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, also shared her experience with Diddy in an interview, saying that while she was staying at Cassie's home, she was awakened by the sounds of screams, and when she went to check it out, Diddy cussed at her because Cassie refused to have sex with him.
He's standing in the living room area and she's there, and he was like, emotional singing, there you are. And I just was like, oh, he's talking to me. And I remember, I don't know if you know what his voice sounds like, but I felt like I was in the presence of his monster inside. And I remember looking in his eyes, and I said to him, what did y'all do? Because I could see that she was really sedated. That was the first time I ever seen her high before. And then he says, tell your girl she wants some birthday. And we were like, well, I mean, he's saying this to me, and I'm like, well, she doesn't have to have sex with you if she doesn't want to. He was upset, I guess that she didn't want to do with him whatever he wanted. I don't know. I don't feel like I could advocate for myself in that moment. I realized, oh, this guy is dangerous.
Diddy's ex-bodyguard, Gene Deal, had also recently exposed P. Diddy's dark secrets about what was going on behind the scenes. He also talked about Tiffany Red's situation.
My man, it touched me crazy, man, because the hurt that I seen in her voice, in her she crying, man, and she worrying about what this dude could do to her and what he has done to her.
In March of this year, Homeland Security officials with search warrants went to Combs' homes in both Miami and Los Angeles. They searched both homes and seemed to find a lot of evidence. This investigation had something to do with an investigation into sex trafficking in the Southern District of New York. Caught on Monday night at the Park Hyatt Hotel in Manhattan, New York. His defense team said that he had been locked up there since September 5th, which is almost 2 weeks ago, because they were waiting for the charges to be brought. His defense says this proves he won't run away and has been helpful. If you asked U.S. Attorney Damian Williams about Combs' help, he seemed doubtful and said that the word cooperative has tremendous elasticity and doesn't mean the same thing it did in the past.
Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Responding to legal processes doesn't always mean that you are really cooperating.
Let me just say this. I think that generally and with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity, and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful.
There's a lot to talk about as we go through all of Sean Combs' court documents. We are now seeing what the government thinks they can prove. There are still questions about possible new charges, future filings, or co-conspirators. This brings us to the main charge against Diddy. In federal court, prosecutors put together papers with charges against Combs and his friends. So far, only Combs is named in these documents. A racketeering plot charge, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution are the three charges against him.
Sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. Under racketeering conspiracy, they allege multiple acts of kidnapping, arson, bribery, forced labor, prostitution, illegal sex activities, possession with intent to distribute, narcotics and controlled substances, including...
A meeting on Tuesday heard Combs' pleas of not guilty to all charges. Combs could spend the rest of his life in prison if he is found guilty of all charges. He faces at least 15 years in prison. Let's look at each of these charges in more detail. First, there's the charge. It's 14 pages long and full of useful, interesting things. A serious charge says, for decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, used his power, influence, and the resources of his business empire to coerce, abuse, and manipulate women and others around him. Yes. However, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams discussed about this and said that no matter how famous the criminal is, they will face the consequences.
I want to be clear about two things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
The government says Combs is in charge of a criminal organization whose members and supporters are involved in kidnapping, sex trafficking, forced labor, arson, bribery, and getting in the way of the law.
What he's being known for with Cassie, I can only equate to some of the things that I've seen him and Kim go through.
Gene talks about the lawsuit against Diddy and expresses his disgust on what Diddy would do to other girls.
All of our music, all my work, to find out that like I spent all these years writing these songs for him to rape my friend to, like, is just...
Racketeering plot, on the other hand, is an agreement to do illegal things, usually ones that have to do with organized crime. Combs is accused of running such a business and committing crimes for his own benefit, for sexual pleasure, or to protect his image. The indictment also talks about Combs's famous freak-offs, which were sex parties with male professional sex workers. Combs is said to have forced and scared women into taking part. According to the complaint, Combs gave out illegal drugs at these parties to make sure people followed the rules. Police say Combs recorded these events, kept the footage, and often had staff clean up after these freak-offs. Drugs and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant were taken by police from Combs' homes as proof. Combs is charged with sex trafficking through fraud, force, or forceful restraint in Count 2. Count 3 is about moving people to be prostitutes. Even though it is very detailed, this indictment doesn't go into enough detail about some of the more serious claims Combs is facing in civil cases, such as claims involving minors. For example, the case of Justin Bieber. Second, a disturbing video of Diddy and teenage Justin Bieber resurfaces after sex trafficking raids.
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh?
No,
you ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But you never really got my number, so.
Right, okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
Jaguar Wright had also confirmed fears of fans regarding Justin Bieber, saying that Diddy passed around Justin Bieber to his mates. Another video has been going viral on the internet in which Diddy is seen touching Justin to see if he was wired or not, and then whispering something in his ear. A video posted on Justin Bieber's official channel has also gone viral over the internet, with him spending 48 hours with Diddy. In the video, Diddy says to Justin that he would get a ride in his car when he turns 16 and would get the whole mansion at 18.
Slow down, okay?
One step at a time.
But yeah, the keys is yours when you get 16. You're good to go.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
All right.
And then when you get 18, you get the house. You get the mansion.
Okay. I get the mansion?
Yeah.
So where are we on?
Justin was also seen at a party with Diddy where Diddy gifts him a bad boy jacket as a birthday gift, and Justin is clearly not in his mind in the video.
The bad boy. Oh, he's bad boy now.
Signing the bad boy. Announcement.
Here's your icon alert. It's called He's Bad Boy Now. It's called Don't Ever Play Yourself.
P. Diddy's backup dancer, Tanika Ray, also spoke about having a horrific experience with Diddy.
And I also am very intimately aware that you tell your truth and you become victimized over and over and over and over and over and over. But it just is so traumatizing that women just want to live every day and feel safe. We live in a state of victimhood, and nobody wants to live there. So for those of you like, why didn't you say something then? Because we just want to live. We want to be happy. And we really want to forget the trauma. So there's that.
There have been hints from the prosecutors that more charges may be coming, but there doesn't seem to be enough proof yet. In response, Combs' defense filed a letter proposing a bail package, emphasizing his cooperation over the last 6 months and accusing the government of making the situation unnecessarily difficult. Through counsel, Mr. Combs promptly told the government that he was willing to voluntarily surrender when an arrest warrant was issued. Rather than accepting that invitation, the government chose to execute its arrest warrant at a luxury hotel, subjecting Mr. Combs to a public arrest and a high-profile perp walk. The defense is arguing that Combs' voluntary cooperation, including booking the hotel in advance and staying there in anticipation of the charges, demonstrates that he is not a flight risk. They proposed a bail package that includes a $5 million bond, strict supervision, surrendering of passports, and the installation of a GPS tracking device. The defense team also noted that Combs has significant ties to the community and is willing to adhere to any conditions set by the court. They further emphasized that Combs has not attempted to flee or evade the investigation. The defense also criticized the government for conducting the arrest in a very public manner, which they believe was unnecessary given Combs' willingness to cooperate. They argued that the prosecution is attempting to portray him as a criminal mastermind orchestrating a large-scale operation, but that the reality, according to the defense, is far from the narrative being painted.
Diddy's lawyers had argued that he had made good faith efforts by showing up in New York ready to surrender to face these charges, but prosecutors said that he could not be trusted, that he has a history of trying to intimidate witnesses, including some who are going to be
But the prosecution is fighting these claims by saying that Combs has a long history of being abused and forced to do things. They say that the charges against him are very serious, and that the proof, which includes witness statements and things found during raids on his properties, shows that he had a lot of power over the people around him and used it to control and manipulate them. However, Diddy was refused bail.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors."
The government doesn't believe Combs' claims that he is cooperating, since simply following the law doesn't mean that someone is fully cooperating. In addition, the prosecution brought up worries about how Combs could threaten witnesses if he was freed. They made it clear that his money and power could be used to mess up the court system, even if he was released with tight conditions.
Witnesses in this case, they urged the judge to remand him. She did, and when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before.
Years ago, Jonathan Oddie, a sex slave for Diddy and Cassie Ventura's freak-off session, made accusations against Diddy, to which people laughed, saying that Oddie was hallucinating. However, now many people think that everything he said was true.
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean